Hello everyone, what's up? This is Kike with part 2 of the Android domination. This part of the guide video, this part of the guide will be a video because it's a little bit easier for me this way, and it will be aimed at more advanced users. If you're not completely advanced, then you've got to learn at some point if you want to, and this is a good place to start if you do want to do that. Um, okay, so we'll just put on a little slideshow to help me remember what I'm supposed to talk about. So hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully it makes the videos a little bit better. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was task killers. I know that a lot of people will use task killers. Maybe a little inappropriately. So like there are some appropriate and inappropriate uses for task killers, of course. Now, some of the appropriate uses, at least according to me, please let me know if you disagree and why. I like learning as well. So if you're trying to kill a single app, say you've been playing, I don't know, say you've been playing Angry Birds, and you're tired of playing Angry Birds, so you hit your home button. That did not kill the application. There are two ways to completely kill the application. You can, look at that, I got a space. You, like I said, hitting the home button will not kill the application. What you have to do if you want to fully kill the application is hit the back button, and that'll always ask, are you sure you want to quit? You hit yes. There, the application is no longer in your memory. And we can confirm this. As you can see, it's not there. Now, if you don't want to do that, I don't know why anybody would not want to do that, but if you don't want to do that, you can always pop open a task killer and just hit the exit. And be sure not to use this exit all button. I mean, it'll clean up your RAM. The problem with that is that the apps that are running in the background, let me show you. So you've got system applications that are running in the background. Oh god. Like, for example, I've got Engadget running and my smart screen off, settings, synchronize, Google services, media hub, etc. Now, the problem is that when you clear your memory, just like, you do it just like this, yes, it'll go down from like 500 to 300 megabytes that are being used, but the problem with that is that, one, anything that uses a synchronization like this widget is now dead, as you can see. And two, all these applications that you turned off, most of them are going to turn themselves back on anyways. So you're going to end up using up that little bit of memory that you were trying to save. If you really, really need to clear your RAM, like if your phone is acting up or something, you can always do that. I'd prefer a reboot because it'll clear the cache as well, and that is generally a bit more thorough. But if you're feeling like maybe a reboot isn't for you, then that would be an appropriate time to use a task killer. Something else, or some of the inappropriate uses would be the random purging. I used to be like this, I will admit that. Like I would play a game or open up any application and I'd kill it like right after, and the problem is I didn't kill that application, I killed my entire system. And it's not, yeah, I mean, you can do it, it's not bad, it's just you're not doing anything by doing that, and that's yeah, not efficient. Anything else that you use a task killer for is generally not efficient. I mean, you can uninstall apps from there, but if you have it like to randomly clean your phone every 5 minutes, that's, like I said, it's gonna start back up. So yes, you'll keep killing it and killing it, but you're at that point are using up more power to kill it than if you were just letting it idle in the background. Something else I want to talk about is application permissions. So say that you are in the say that you are in the Play Store, as I am about to do. Oh, connect to my Wi-Fi. No. Okay. car says. Okay, sorry about that. Say you're in the Play Store. Oh my God, really? Okay. Say you're in the Play Store and I don't know. Let's see what you're looking at Zeem launcher. Great launcher, by the way. And so then you're just looking through here, and then you go to install the application. This is something that a lot of people will never look at, and you really should. Look at the permissions that the application requests. For example, services that cost you money, directly call phone numbers, and then it'll even give you a description here, which is, what more could you ask for? Look at that. It's freaking awesome. There's I'm not saying that any app with permissions is bad, but there's generally a way to figure out if an app is good or bad or potentially harmful. First of all, look at the app. And if it's an app like a theme and it has a permission of some sort, I mean, no theme really should have any permission. Even if it's for a specific launcher, it'll be able to install itself. It's configured to be that way. It doesn't need extra permissions. So if it's got like directly call phone numbers or access your contacts or something like that, then you might want to stay away from that or ask the developer why it's that way. You generally don't need to do that for, I mean, if an application isn't doing something like if you download a dialer application, it's completely understandable that it would need to use your your minutes, your service to contact other people. But if it's a theme or I don't know, a task killer or messaging, actually that's a bad example. Any kind of application that normally wouldn't need permissions, that's bad. So first of all, ask yourself, what does the app do? If it's a theme and it has permissions, then what does that certain permission allow it to do? And that's when you would look at what each permission does. And then you want to ask yourself, should that permission be there? Like, you've got you've got a theme and it needs to call phone numbers. Why? And like I said, you can always ask the developers. If it's a legitimate app, they'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And you can always check online forums to see what other people think, because other people can be right too. Okay, moving on. I'm going to move on quite quickly because I've got quite a bit to cover, and well, a little bit to cover, and I don't want to go over the 10-minute time. So now we go into the big control, and this is known as root. And basically what it is that as most of you probably already know, Android is built on Linux, and Linux has a built-in super user to every application. What the super user is it's a profile that allows complete control over every little aspect of the phone, and that's necessary because the kernel needs to be able to control the phone. If I understand this correctly, please correct me if I don't. So super user is embedded within every application you download in Android. That means that by rooting your phone, all you're doing is simply exploiting that the super user account, and you are loading a binary that allows you to control it, you to interact directly with this, to be the super user, not just have a super user that controls your phone, be the super user. And as you can see, you can do lots of cool things with this, like for example in the Apex launcher. Like whereas before I would have to long click on my screen to put up a widget, I can just like drag it on there and say I want to read more. Yep, there we go. See? Perfect, huh? So it just allows a little bit of extra it's actually absolute control over your phone, and I mean absolute, and you will see what I mean in just a second. There are a few reasons why people should root and people should not root. You should note that it's not for everyone. For example, if you're a developer or aspiring to become a developer, it's generally a good idea to root because you have a little more control over what your phone is doing, and it makes developing a little bit easier. If you're tired of bloatware, like my phone came with a bunch of AT&T applications that I really don't ever use because they're garbage, and I couldn't uninstall them, so I rooted, and I can uninstall them. You can also freeze applications, which is a little bit safer than uninstalling. What freezing is you basically uninstall the application like in a not a very deep level. You just don't allow it to operate anymore. And that's handy because the application doesn't operate. It's not taking up your RAM if it's a bloat application, and if you ever need it, you can just unfreeze it and it's right there. If you're like, I don't know, here's my original Galaxy S. Say hello, hi. As you can see, it's the original Galaxy S, and it did not get the ice cream sandwich update. And so I rooted it, and look at that, I'm running ice cream sandwich, and it's freaking awesome. It's perfectly smooth, look at that. And this is like a 2-year-old phone. Oh, sorry, I totally... It's just great. A 2-year-old phone, and it's running perfectly smooth, running almost the latest version of Android, which is one of the reasons why you might want to root. If you have an older phone and you know it needs a little bit of new life, then you can always root, and I'll show you how to give it a little bit of life in a second. Something else you can do, which I've already mentioned, is you get to have complete control of the device you paid for. I mean, you paid for this, then you want to do everything you possibly can with this. You want to use it, and if that's you, then root away. I'm not going to show you how to root any device specifically. If you do need help rooting, leave a comment or message me, and I will be more than happy to post a video on that or simply answer your question. Also head over to Nikosite, and you can post your questions at our website. There's our URL, nikosite.net. Chances are, if you're watching this, you already know about it, but you know, can't help to tell you guys. Okay, so here are some of the reasons why you generally don't want to root. If you're not very technical about things, then you stay away from root. Root requires a bit of maintenance, and if you're not very good at following directions or like figuring out what little things mean, how little things work, then you generally want to stay away from it because there's always a bit of risk involved with root. If you don't really care about getting like every little like ounce of power out of your phone, then rooting really isn't necessary. Like, I have to admit, my Captivate was worked perfectly fine beforehand. My Galaxy S2 worked perfectly fine beforehand. I simply rooted because I'm that kind of guy. If you're gonna upgrade your phone pretty soon, this is kind of a little double-edged sword. One, root, it's fun, and you're gonna upgrade anyway, so there's no risk involved. But two, I mean, if you don't want to put the time into it, that's completely understandable. And yeah, if you're content with your phone, then don't even bother. Why change anything? That's perfectly fine. Okay, let's see what else. Now, here's a part where I warn all of you. I'm going to show you how to do some cool stuff that root allows you to do to get that little extra bit of power out of your phone. And this is the last part of the complete control guide, because at this point you've played with launchers, you've played with your settings, you've changed wallpapers. Everybody knows how to do that. If you don't, let me know. And now it's time to go where the big boys hang out. So first of all, I will read this disclaimer to you in case that you can't read it. So my YouTube account, nikosite.net, and anybody associated with this will not take any responsibility for your phone if you break it. I will gladly help you if you're encountering any issues, but if you blame me, I'm not going to help you because that's just kind of mean. You know, I'm a nice guy. I will help you. I'm glad to help, but don't blame me if you screw up. Just follow the directions, and if you don't think you can follow them, then don't do it, please. It's for your own good. So, like I said, this is intended only for users who will follow instructions and are willing to spend time working out bugs may appear on their phones. This is the bit of maintenance part. If you're afraid to ruin your phone, don't even try this. This stuff that I'm about to show you will require that you have a rooted device and device is running a kernel that allows CPU control. And I'm not going to list a specific kernel for every device, but again, if you need help with this stuff, first of all, you can head over to XDA Developers. They have a forum for pretty much every device out there. And two, you can ask me. Like I said, I'm more than glad to help. Just keep in mind, I'm a busy guy, so yeah. So first of all, we're going to talk about altering the clock speed, and for this, I'm going to use my Galaxy S or my Galaxy S2. So as I mentioned, my device is rooted, and here is, so I've loaded the Sija kernel, I think it's pronounced. So what it does here is I've installed No Frills CPU control. This app requires root, and basically allows you to do is change the max clock frequency on your phone up to 1.6 gigahertz on this kernel. It runs stock at 1.2. You can underclock it up to down to 25 megahertz, which is not at all recommended. You can change the minimum frequency. It runs stock at 200. Now you have these things called governors and input-output schedulers. The governors will change how your phone scales. Like think of it like an overdrive type thing, where if your phone is using too much, if your phone is having to work too hard to complete a task, then it'll bump up the frequency. So say your phone is at idle at 400 megahertz and you unlock it, then automatically it's going to start doing something. So it'll probably bump up the frequency a bit, maybe 800 megahertz. Now say you're just sitting there and then all of a sudden you decide to play a game. It's probably going to jump up to a higher frequency then. And the the schedulers will decide how that is scaled. For example, I have the on-demand scheduler, which is a bias towards performance, but is will scale up and down. There's also schedulers like, for example, the performance, which will scale mostly up, hardly ever will scale down. You have conservative, which will scale mostly down, but will scale up if needed. You've got the, excuse my language here, but the smart-ass kernel, which is biased a little more to, I think if I remember correctly, it's to be even. There's a lulz active, which is biased to conserve you a little bit of battery. Again, it's kind of an even balance between scaling up and scaling down. The input-output scheduler will is how your phone will treat orders from, as in like reading and writing memory type orders. There's, for example, let's see, there's the NOOP or NOOP scheduler, which is it's one of the better ones. It prioritizes tasks, if I remember correctly. I run the deadline, which is it's the fastest one. It'll just, and every command is almost instant, which will it causes my processor to work a little bit harder, but I can load applications and files, access my files a little bit quicker. So there's that. So some of the reasons, there are two types of alteration, of course. You can either clock it up, so you can alter your clock speed to go up, which is called overclocking. What this does for you is it allows you to have more performance. It will lower your battery life simply because you're putting more calculations per second into your phone. Your phone will get hotter if it's doing something because heat, and I kind of took notes on this. I was just looking at this briefly so I could tell you guys about it, but heat is proportional to the voltage of your phone, voltage going through the processor, multiplied by the current. The voltage, you have control over the current. I don't know how to find out. Let me know if you guys need help with that, and I can certainly find out. So, if you have more current going through there, if your uh, phone is clocked higher, then it will get hotter. And there is this thing where, you're passing a current, water. Think of it as water going through a pipe. It'll erode the pipe a bit every time it goes through. I mean, not substantially in one time, but it will over time degrade the quality of the pipe inside. It's the same thing with many electronics, since we haven't figured out superconductivity yet. The resistance of the metal, which is generally low in these kinds of electronics because it needs to be, will the resistance will decide how much heat your phone generates, and the sad part is that um, the more current you push through, the more resistance there is, the hotter your phone gets, and the hotter it gets, the more resistance. So it's if you look at a graph, it'll look at the say the resistance. No, sorry. How would it go? Well, it's resistance graph versus temperature, and as the temperature shoots up, the resistance peaks at its maximum, and your phone will not feel good at that point. If you underclock your phone, it's this is a bit debated, but you can have a little bit better battery life, and you will increase your phone's life by not too much, but I mean, if it makes you happy, then why not? Voltage. Now, the power that your phone is using is proportional to the frequency that you're running your phone at. Well, this is an approximate. It's a lot more complicated than this, but the frequency that your phone runs at multiplied by the voltage squared. And what that means basically is if a lower voltage should theoretically lower power consumption by a square factor. And okay, the math says that it'll do this, but whether it actually does make a noticeable difference is kind of debated. I personally think that it might make a difference in extreme cases, but I mean, in a phone where you've got such a large screen as you do today, then the main factor that's using up your battery is the screen, so it really won't be noticeable. One thing that you should note about a voltage is that if you are running, so the proper way to overclock a phone, or a computer for that matter, is to first of all increase the frequency and stress test. And by stress test, I mean run either the most brutal game you can find or the heaviest benchmark you can find, and that'll show you whether your phone is oh god, I'm at 22 minutes. That'll show you whether your phone is okay with what's being done to it. If it's not okay with it, then your phone will shut down because it's trying to save its butt. But if it doesn't shut down, then you can push the clock up a bit. If it does shut down, push the clock up a bit and retest. If it does shut down, then you want to either lower the clock or lower the voltage, because that'll create less heat and your phone will hopefully be happy with that. I believe that is all I had to say to you. So this, oh god, wrong, there we go, sorry. So this wasn't too in-depth, but it will hopefully provide a general feel of what rooting and overclocking does. You can expect a little bit more performance. I think I've gotten my benchmark score on this thing up from 4300 to what, 5500, which is like Galaxy S3 range at 1.6 gigahertz. I can't get the graphics to overclock to 400 megahertz though. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and keep reading Nikosite and comments. Tell your friends about us and tell us what you want to see from us, and we'll see if we can put it for you. And hit that like button or subscribe if you don't want to. That's okay. Bye bye.